Well, with the sale of Boeing, this is Blue's first move. They bought their 3 shares. 2 other players bought 3. Nobody wants the last share. It's just going to go back into the bank. And this is the first time we've seen this. It's split 3 ways. 2 people make a deal, it works. They don't, it doesn't work. So that extra certificate means almost nothing. It's just a tiny bit of money that can be made. The only reason to buy it would be to drive the price of Boeing up. I don't see a point to that. Okay, so on to the next player. Okay, went around again. I don't know if I hit on this, but Black managed to get control of Phillips. Basically, they and White each bid 3 on it. White buckled eventually. Went for 410. Then we saw some events. Red, for example, ended up getting 2 free shares of whatever they liked. They grabbed Lockheed Martin just because of its location. It happens to be close to where they could hit next and maybe get a control easier than they could otherwise. Another was some stock price changes. Electronics and chemicals prices all went up. Chemicals up 40, stocks up 10, electronics up 10. And you have to kind of pick through and change the values of all the stocks. Somehow I missed with Sony, which is one of the big problems with it. Is it's not terribly easy to catch them. They're not organized that way. They're organized alphabetically. And then finally, this guy got some $750,000 just from a card. White landed on the Boeing space. There was still a Boeing share available up here. They didn't want that though, not for 360 when it does them no good. So they opened up bidding on Club Med. And what's nice about Club Med is it's only $100. Seemed like a good business to get into. Unfortunately, other people thought so too. It ended up selling 8 shares? I see 8 shares sold. I'm wondering if I'm down a certificate or if somebody's double booked here. I may be missing a Club Med certificate or a go. Oh, no, there we go. Okay, so 8 of the 10 shares sold. Goes up to $180. Nobody got control of it. It's one of the problems when you do that, when you don't have the location. Of course, there's a potential deal in place between these two because of Club Med now, which I've got to start cutting those deals because once it becomes clear that they're an advantage for someone, it's harder to make the deal. It's better to make it while things are still kind of fluid. So stepping into that deal making and wheeling and dealing type stuff, Black notices, hey, I can trade this guy a Unilever for an Apple, and we each get a set that way. It's our second set in each case. That would be cool. Except for this green player says, I get a bonus off of holding 3 computer companies. So I'll do that if you throw in an IBM. And at this point, what Black says, well, that's not really fair, is it? I mean, let's start looking at the values here. The IBM's worth a lot. The Unilever's down at 270. The Apple is up at 300. IBM's at 370. I'm definitely getting the worst deal here. At least throw in another share. Well, it's not going to be the Boeing, and it's not going to be the Club Med. Those are both things that this player has significant power in. And for that matter, this guy has some power in the IBM. So he's not really willing to cut this deal just to give him a bonus here. So the deal ends up holding off, and Black's going to take their turn. And they land on Boeing, which is a lousy place to be. They're going to be putting something kind of at random up for auction, and they're also involved in the initial auction on it. Well, what Black picked was Canon, one of the electronics things, to go with Philips. and they bid for 3 of them, and a number of other people did too. The next 2 people bid for 3. That's 9 shares gone. This guy bid for 1. This guy said, hey, what happens if I bid 2? So he also bid for 1. Now we're overbid. Price went up $110 for all those bids, and then went up again to see who would drop out. Well, black dropped out given the first option. They said, this is getting too steep for what it is. Everybody else had to buy. Then on the second round of bidding, blue came in and bought the last 2 shares. So now it's split 3 ways, but any 2 of them could cut a deal. So it's kind of interesting in that sense that players can now cut deals with the stock. It's not just frozen or in some kind of bone place. You don't want to buy everything, that's for sure, but getting the buys at the right time, and I think blue may have gotten kind of a bonus by jumping in and getting the same as these other people did, although they paid more for it by buying in the second round. All right, now we move on, and it's red's turn. And we'll see what they're going to hit, just because it's interesting. They too hit the Boeing, and they too will probably throw something out. And we have our first deal. Red put L'Oreal up. It ended up dividing 3 ways, with black, red, and orange getting it. And that immediately set up a trade that orange suggested, Cannon for L'Oreal. You take which way you like, because I already have HP. Red was willing to go with it. They're falling behind. They're willing to make deals with the devil, right? And it's not really. There's a lot of people who are in ahead of them, so it seemed like a good deal. Now this has just cut out blue's Cannon holding. It's cut out black's L'Oreal holding. Made them kind of worthless. Not entirely, but it might be worth selling some of those to raise cash. Of course, it's quite possible that nobody wants them. Because remember, the goal of this game is just these conglomerates. So now these shares have become much less worthwhile. And there may be people willing to pick them up. So like this guy has control or near control of Unilever. A L'Oreal share would be useful to him. So he'd probably buy one. Other people maybe not so much. I don't see anybody else who really wants a share of L'Oreal. Okay, so orange gets to actually roll the dice for their turn. And I'm sorry for taking this much detail. It's just they're hitting McDonnell Douglas, which is going to be fresh territory. So far, only Boeing and Lockheed have been, well, the Lockheeds were inherited. Only Boeing's been sold out. So we're going to see possibly something happen here. And McDonnell Douglas split 3-3 between these two. That'll be green and yellow. And on green's beginning of the turn, they cut a deal with orange, yellow, whatever. I'll give you McDonnell Douglas for Boeing, but throw an IBM in. They want the IBM because that opens up an option here. Of course, orange right now is a large way towards winning. They've got 3 of their 5 corporations already slammed down. Now, these guys aren't too terribly far. If they had asked for a Mitsubishi, that would have probably... Oh, no, they have that already. Oh. They need a Unilever is what they need. So if they can make a trade of IBM for Unilever, well, but how likely is it that they're going to be able to make a 1-for-1 trade when they're in fairly good shape? They may have to throw in some stuff to sweeten the deal. There's no question there. Especially when there are other people holding IBMs that could trade. Of course, there are other people holding Unilever too. But he doesn't have much he can offer. He has Apple, which he could cut with them. Why doesn't he look to this direction then? Apple in exchange for a Unilever. That sounds pretty fair. And this guy might chime in, I'll do it. And indeed, that's what's going to happen. He's going to trade an Apple straight up for a Unilever. And that gives him 3 sets. This guy's only at 2, but he was willing to take the deal just because, oh no, yeah, he's at 3. So we have a number of people at 3 sets. It's going to be harder to cut deals when you're close to winning, I would guess. But you may be able to prevent other people from making things. And then the people who aren't going to make deals may start going belly up and having to sell stocks off. That's at least my thinking on it. Let's see what green's going to land on. You get a 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Avian's Assault. Aerosol? Interesting. Let's see what happens. And that triggered off some more ugly deals. Green and white both got sets of 3 of the Avion Dassault. They cut a deal. White agreed to take the airline company in exchange for their Club Meds and the connection for IBM. Now this puts green 1 away from winning. They need 1 more corporation under control to win. Obviously, nobody's just going to hand that to them. Everybody's kind of looking at white with this. Yeah, I'd have done it too, you know. So yeah, it's they've managed to pull ahead with deals left and right, and the orange players holding 3 companies, white hold 2, black holds 2, red's only holding 1, and you know, somebody like blue is sitting there saying, I've gotten shafted here, because he also had 3 shares of this, but he didn't have anything he could trade for it, and now he's got 3 shares of something that's kind of not worth having. All right, well, I guess it's white's turn, and I might as well roll the dice because I've been doing that for everyone. 8, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and now we're going to get another company up there, Mobile. And there's no question that that's going to get bid on. Now that's an expensive company of $500 a share, and people have to be careful because their money's running low at this point. Well, white and blue split the initial Mobile bid, and then white chickened out at 600. So it went for a total of, I don't know, it was like pretty close to 6 times, pretty close to 3,600 for blue to get their first company. And that's got to be kind of painful. On the other hand, white would have liked another company, but it's just, there's so much pain towards that. Directing a company in and of itself is not worth that much. It's only if you can have either the diversification, which is the 3 companies, which they would have hit with that, and they probably should have gone for it because of that. But they've got time to get another company if they end up in this position again. It's just, this position isn't that often the case where only 2 people are on it. And blue had almost nothing to gain by it, so white should not have chickened out in my opinion. Alright, so there we are sitting, and we've got some people who are going to be raking in big money. We got the diversification here. He's not too far. We got specialization on this guy. He threw it away to get his 4th company with IBM. And there's no tech stock that's out there right now, and no computer stock. He might be able to make some sort of trade to get a computer stock again to get that extra money. I don't think anybody else has diversification. I think it's just here, and that's not as much money. That's specialization. That's only 300,000, but still, that's a pile of money compared to what most things are making. Of course, it doesn't compare to what was just spent on Mobile there. When I say, right, that was nearly 3,600. That's 3,600,000. So that, you know, the amount of money that would have come back from this the 600,000 or whatever, well, that's the value of one share of Mobile. That's what you get from being the director of Mobile. So actually the diversification and specialization I thought were worth more than they are. They're extra bonuses you definitely want to collect if you can, but your income's not going to compare to your stock holdings and the amount of money you started with. All right, up this one goes.